right, so, Robert, Randy, Dick, okay, yeah, the thoughts for us with, half an hour about the forum that we do about the street is, I'm supposed to give you a few minutes, but maybe next thing, but I think, really good, thank you.
Any comments at all? Thank you for inviting us to present to the board. Could I have a quick show of hands, please? How many of you see kiwi living in the back garden every day?
Yeah.
Okay. How many of you would like to see kiwi in your back garden? Okay. So the kiwi is a tonga. It is certainly our iconic animal. Excuse me. It's native to New Zealand. It's only found here. We fly it on our airplanes, we carry it in our pockets, we put it on the products we make, and we even call ourselves kiwi. But in spite of this intense cultural focus, the actual birds aren't doing so well. Kiwi populations are shrinking at the rate of 2% a year. The story is different here in our district. Because of the large number of kiwi protection efforts, populations here are growing. Each year, our population of birds increases by 5%. This growth is a two-edged sword. Increasing populations need larger territories to call home. As birds disperse out of protected areas and into unprotected spaces, they're more and more likely to come into contact with human activities. So here's the map of our district with our kiwi protection areas. Kiwi protection areas are the pink, and conservation land, Department of Conservation land is in green. All of these currently have known kiwi populations. There's anecdotal evidence of kiwi in other places as well. So these are the places where kiwi protection takes place on a regular basis and where there are known populations of birds now. But as we've said, each year the population of birds is growing and more birds are dispersing to establish new territories. Birds disperse on average up to 20 kilometers from where they originated. So when we take all this dispersal into account, our map of the district looks a lot better. The map on the right, you can see that 80% of the district is actually kiwi territory. And when we add in the dock managed land and we add 20 kilometers to that, it's well over 95% of the district. That's kiwi territory already. So except for a thin strip at the extreme southern end of the district, our whole district is kiwi territory. This is fantastic. It's a tribute to our team of 31,000, and frankly, it's a unique distinction for our council to be able to say Thames-Coromandel district is kiwi country. Now, kiwi uncomfortably share their habitat with possums. There are an estimated 30 million of these introduced Australians who didn't get out before lockdown. Possums are pest animals and they harm our forests and our birds. Pest control efforts try to reduce or eliminate possums from the environment through the use of kill traps and toxins. But possums can also be caught and harvested for their meat and for their fur. In this case, it's preferable to capture the animal live, killing it just before taking the fur as a pelt. So for that, leg hold traps, like this one, are the preferred tool for capturing possums. So commercial trapping will work in an area of high possum density because that gives them the most possums for their effort. A trapper might work hundreds of traps like this in a day. Unless they're under a Say this could be.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on this or?
I've got two questions. So DOC already support the use of traps, those traps, and support them being raised, being up, not on the ground. So we've got that support already.
Yes, 70 centimeters. In fact, when DOC actually does their crossing monitors, they use these. So it's 2 nails into the tree, and then it just slides in on the springs. So if a possum trapper says, oh, it's much too cumbersome, it's not worth it for me to take ramps out, you don't have to take ramps out in the forest. You just pop in 2 good-sized nails into the tree. It slides through the spring, and they set it, boom.
And the other question I had was, so that's probably just as effective up as it is down anyway, because it's possums do actually climb trees, don't they? So
There's definitely different opinions about it. Some research has been done that show the effectiveness does change with height, and it's sometimes not as good. However, some other studies have shown that in forest, it doesn't matter. I spoke to a trapper yesterday, and he said to me, well, it depends on how good the trapper is. He said, I personally do it this way, and my catch doesn't reduce. So there are definitely different opinions out there, but I would say that it will reduce the number of possums caught, because not all trappers are competent trappers.
yes,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, what you need is your trappers having the mindset about, well, if I put it on the ground, then I'm going to be killed. So you want them to be conservation conscious, want to be aware of what I'm trying to achieve, not just the areas to get.
And ultimately, it's illegal to harm or kill a kiwi. So it doesn't make sense for a possum trapper to put the trap where it could do that, because I mean, I've got a lot of information from Northland. I don't know how much time you want to spend, but at their trapping workshops, they've had trappers say, oh, I catch and release kiwi all the time. Harder. And a kiwi dog handler, so this is somebody that goes out and finds kiwi, either to recover eggs or to do health checks or whatever. A kiwi dog handler set up listening. You know how many times I've found a dead kiwi 50 meters away from medical traps that have broken legs and ripped up legs. He said, well, of course it runs away from you when you let it out of the trap. It's scared to death, but it just runs away and dies. And so a lot of trappers said, oh, it's no big deal.
And there's, in Shortland Cemetery, this was taken just a few weeks ago. A friend took her kids out for a walk, and that trap, it wasn't set, but her 5-year-old found that. So we're not just talking about birds, we're talking about safety of the public. So,
And we have 22 letters of support that we'll leave behind here. Many of them are, of course, from the usual suspects, the conservation groups. You would expect us to have letters from them. We also have letters from Destination Coromandel, which is our regional tourism operator, because they see it as a real speaking point for our district, to say, hey, look, we're protecting the kiwi, not just in these places, our district protects kiwi. So Destination Coromandel, Forest and Bird Thames-Coast Protection Society, the WT Nichols Trust, and we have letters, national letters from Federated Club Forest and Bird Kiwi. So there is a broad community support for this concept. Even trappers that I've spoken to, the New Zealand Fur Council supports us. So, yes, there are some economic downsides to it for certain trappers, but ultimately we're talking about the health of the birds and the safety of birds, which are vulnerable and can't speak. They can't, they're not going to talk to you guys. So,
and we also think about, as a district, our district of 31,000 people, how cool would it be for us to be the leaders nationally that say, hey, we're protecting our birds. All you other districts, come and join us, because we can be the leader in this. that's hopefully inspiring.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just go on. Are the tracks identifiable to the trapper? So you can't say who put.
No, there's no need to serialize or put numbers on. Theoretically, if the trap is set on public conservation land, the person must have a permit to put it there. Although we know from experience that that's not done. Also, we know from experience like up the Success Track, which is a publicly accessible private land, or up Ford's Road, which is DCDC reserved, people trap opportunistically without permits. So there's an education thing that needs to take place as well.
They don't need a license either, do they, trapper? Can anyone, can I go out and buy a trapper? Can I put it on easy land something?
I think that's the true statement.
You're supposed to get permission.
From the landowner, yeah, but anybody can do it by qualifications.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I think
It's great presentation. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. So everything, getting is also on this.
If you want to, I put no worries. Anyway. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Appreciate your time, right?
Thanks.
No, I seem to think that I was quite surprised that was available. I thought they would be, it's really
In that one? In that one?
yeah, it's in the middle, put it on, it's really gross. It's safe.
Welcome, Becky, and Mike. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to come to talk to you today. I'm sure you're as you know, there's been a proposal about a council property in Town Street. And as a result of work we've done in the community, with consulting schools and other groups, we've come up with something really that addresses the need in the community for that school to work transition for our young people. And looking at the need there, education is a big need in the community. What happens to them, with our wonderful schools. As I'll let Mike do the talking to this as he's done all the work.
Well, one of the great things is that both the area school and Thames-Coromandel are both supportive of the project. And it's an opportunity for those two, the Kuda and the school, to come together in the same venue to be doing something together, which doesn't happen that much. It's a great community builder in its own way. But I think it'd be fair to say that after the proposal went into council, as a result of the budget that came out with before last, there was an emphasis on major projects. So that's something that we hoped would come about. So the idea of the native plant nursery is very relevant, and it's going to be a go up without doubt. The opportunities are going to be there. And the other feature that was prominent in the budget as well was the whole idea of trades training and the support for trades training. And what we need to take on board is that for a lot of people from this community, younger people who wish to get into trades or that they go to university, there is a high failure rate when they leave the community to go to Waikato or Auckland or wherever it might be to do their tertiary education. They don't have whānau support. They probably lack the maturity to be there solo or even if they're in group situations and stuff. So the idea of being able to do transition from school to work, training, or what you will, if we're able to get alongside those younger people, and this will now be from 15 plus, because we're not just talking about 18-year-olds looking at the years 13, there's such a concentration, such a focus on trades now, that there will be a number of young people who will be holding their hands up and say that that's what they would like to do. And if we're able to then have that site, we can work with those younger people, we can work with the teachers in situ, so we can then create the environment for them to meet other adults in the community, have mentoring, have their first job opportunity perhaps, be able to mingle in and do some of that socialising that in a smaller community isn't necessarily what's a great opportunity. So I think that the proposal that we put in, we did ask for a 10-year plus 10-year lease, and we would request that we approve that we get as long a lease as we possibly can. And the reason is that by going to the funders, we've agreed with council in the discussion stage that Kilt will look to the funds to then upgrade the timber building, that would be part of the leasehold, and the big shed, and they're both integral to the whole project. And so we would need to find those funds, and those funders would be saying to us what kind of security of tenure you have, and of course that would then be contingent upon the sort of money that we can get, so I think it's chicken and egg thing. But I've spoken to the funders about it. They're keen, and particularly in the last week, they reckon it's a great idea. And as Vicky said, St John's for the parking, Forest and Bird are keen for revegetation. With the railway, don't have room there in their revegetation project. The two that we put in the school. And Kilt would then create 2 full-time equivalent jobs as a result of being able to get the old depot site. And we'll be volunteering as well. We create a nursery, and we will also be looking at revegetation projects and employing people to do those revegetation projects, which are also looking much more possible, much more likely in the future. And I know that there's, and right so, concern from council and community board as far as long-term leaseholds, what if it's needed in the future. And so Kilt's position is that if council needed access to the site in the future, then that could be the subject of negotiation as a community benefit. That's what we're all about after all. And that's what we've done up with the 30 plus 30 year leasehold we've got with the flats, 20 plus 20 year leasehold with the same general reserve building, 10 plus 10 year leasehold with the RTS gold mine building. So that's the pattern that we've been working with council and community board, and we would certainly not stand in the way of community benefit coming about through council and hopefully Kilt community as well. So
Very good. Thanks. Vicky, are there any questions for me?
The tenant lease, Mike, and you're saying it's about funding, like say, like you're asking for 10 year, like 10, which is quite a big thing to sort of think about on that, based on what we're going to be doing.
Yes.
If there was an initial part, say, that the lease was shorter to start off with, just so you knew, we knew, everybody knew that it was actually going to be,
Yes.
the happy outcomes. Would that upset the future funding of it? I mean, it could be reduced.
Sure. Well, I guess if council were to feel that in order to have comfort as far as the short term, if we were to look at a 5-year period for the beginning, but with the right to renew for a further series of 5 years or a 10-year period after that.
But the initial.
Yeah, because what funders would be doing, like anybody else, would be saying, what's the overall, or what's the big picture, if we're going to be giving money for this to happen, then okay, worst case scenario, it's 5 years, then council wants to take it back, what's plan B? I would hope that if we invested a significant amount of money in fixing up buildings, that we'd still be able to access those buildings. And that council would then, in the negotiations, then look at an alternative piece of land that we could then relocate if that's what had to happen. So that there was the sense that there was going to be an ongoing project and not just have 5 year life, and that's.
It works in very well in the hub. And it doesn't really, I mean, it's quite a symbolic relationship, that's all. It's kind of hard to think, so
Yes.
I mean, it's a good spot.
Yeah.
And the other question I have,
Yes, I do.
was about job creation, so you have 2 years.
Yes.
What about the outcomes of the students that are doing their training? What about the job creation from there?
Yeah, so the area school had already had an idea of something that hadn't really crystallised. And then when we put it to them as to how it's going to work, they actually want to bring the kids in at the junior level all the way through. So our idea is around transition from school to work. But the school and the Kuta want to expose the kids to environmental projects, building skills and so on, seeing math or so it's going to be all the way through the schools, and they're going to build in, I think, the area school, but the environmental schools. Project.
So they see a really good way to their fire school project, which not the little guys,
Yeah.
and goes all the way through. This facility would provide a practical and access to all of the opportunities.
But I would imagine that if we were able to secure revegetation planting projects, which would be emphasis that regional council in the Coromandel Harbour, the Naya Harbour at the moment, and looking at all the catchments and so on. There is going to be funds available through the budget, and that's where some of those kids who are leaving school, who perhaps don't know what it is that they're going to be doing, at least if they can get some work experience on a paid basis to get them into the workforce, just to get them going. But post-COVID, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be keen to retrain in all sorts of ways, hospitality and tourism industry. So if we're able to get those people through as well, even just to be able to give them some sense of doing things, that's going to play a major role as well.
It's given that Cole or in his project, as you know, they work with the schools, so they would also be part of your.
So we've already approached the Coromandel-Colville project. That contract is coming to an end. There will be some work.
Yes.
We have expressed a desire to be able to engage her to come in to help us, so we can learn from Colville's experience. And so that's a conversation stage. And so it's really about the site. We get the site, we get some security attending the site, then we build up something.
Any other questions? Or Michael?
Great.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Is that it?
How exciting.
Right, so we just need to do a resolution that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board receives random applicants like them and we accept them as speakers of the public. Next up, items not on the agenda. There is one item, and I was consulted about this and requested that it go to the agenda because it's time sensitive. The request was received after the distribution of the this is in relation to community board grants that have been given for organisers of the Coromandel Film Festival, which has been delayed due to COVID-19, and that funding is supposed to be spent this financial year and it will roll over next financial year. So that's why that's been considered. So I move that we Second late item.
I'll second it.
Those in favour, please say aye.
Yes, Gary, thank you very much.
Conflict of interest. Does anybody have a conflict of interest there?
So that's,
Item 7.
yeah,
I do, I'm on the 200, we will group.
Sorry, yeah, it's actually 8.2.
Anybody else?
Yeah, well, I'm saying,
okay. So we'll excuse ourselves from those discussions.
Next item being minutes for confirmation. Resolution is that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board confirms the minutes of the Coromandel-Colville Community Board meeting held 20th of February 2020, and thank you, Jane, for running that meeting in my absence. We can move to accept that. Mr. Clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes, carried. Next up, the Coromandel Community Management. And item 2.1, draft Coromandel Community Plan from Emma.
Yeah, Mr. James, this is the culmination of a rather long process that started 12 months ago now. We had the first stage, we had the draft plan, we did that with this workshop. So that we made changes since that workshop. So we recommend to have a, when we had the initial consultation meeting, focus group, etc. We did give an indication that we would come back to those who participated in those their final thoughts on the plan once we had it drafted. So we are recommending that we agree for the purposes of taking that final round of feedback from interested parties. And back to you for final adoption. Once we get that feedback. So we're anticipating sort of feedback that would be pretty, we'll be just quite emailing copies to those groups, putting it on the website. And also obviously we have further focus group meetings or anything like that. So we should put it out there because we can give them enough. If we provide further feedback to us, and then we'll finalise that.
So this is the board's guidance for company and things. The board document is.
Which you call it, we did a workshop, we went out to the PC, and we certainly use this draft form as to guide the process, and we'll continue to do that.
Just one thing that might be a little bit nitpicky, but on the page just down the bottom, it's got forestry, farming, fishing, tourism, agriculture, and it's got mussels, which specifies that mussels is out on the agriculture tomato, and it's not. And I'd like oysters to put in as well.
Or should we just remove?
Or remove the mussels. Yeah, it's just agriculture. That covers our fish farming in the future. Sorry.
That's all right. Page 2, you mentioned 17 settlements. On the map there, there's 17 settlements, but the document says 12 settlements.
On page which one?
The 17 settlements shown on the map on page 2. On page 3, it says 12.
Yeah. You're right.
Also on page 3, it references docks and account rubbish policy. That was slightly controversial. Policy, so I just wanted to bit of a just my thoughts, I mean, yeah, I agree.
So So if we agree, we just make that part of that sentence, it is. That's word, which are the explanations, say, yeah.
I'll start that page. Page 6, we're finishing the water treatment plant. I just wondered whether we wanted to add that we're spending a lot of money on the upgrade right now, or whether we want to reference that in this document. Just a thought.
Okay, so council Gray was in the county that is currently under the improvement or something like that.
It's been a lot of money on that.
I think, probably should say, it's a state of the art.
Yeah, that's a big mistake, yeah, I like
It's
that.
currently being picked or something like that. Because the documents looking forward to listening, this will be done.
About a modern.
One.
Page 11 references provided more environmental signage. So we don't need to change anything for this document, but I just thought that I'd mention it because we're going to talk about signs a little bit later on. And the last thing from me, page 12, it says in Maricom. I think that should be Mary Community.
We're going
Page 12, it's on the left hand side, it's on there. That's all from me. The other one.
Sorry, this is supposed to be a change, but we want our own signage.
No, I didn't want anything changed, I just wanted to mention it because we're going to talk about that later on. Anyone else have any comments on the thing?
You mentioned something about the signage thing, this, well, that's a specific reference to coal. I'm not looking at it.
All right, so if there's no further discussion on that, the resolution says that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board receives the draft Coromandel-Colville Community Plan report dated 21st March 2020.
I did get another thing, on page 27 of the council plan, Coromandel Town Centre, design guidelines. Plans and guidelines are designed to create a base definition and defining prioritize space development. Well, I think I just wanted to bring it to my attention, so it's like, just to do the street straight,
So, resolution 2 approves the final draft Coromandel-Colville Community Plan with those alterations. As attached for the purpose of the final feedback for those parties that participated in the previous consultation. And 3, further considers and adopts the community plan following the final feedback process. Do we have a meeting for that resolution? Dan, thank you. Second, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 2.2, McGregor Bay. I'll just bring your attention to a detail that Carol Sutherland passed over to Canada just prior to the meeting. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to come and speak at the public forum due to the new regulations. However, I'll just give you a minute to read it, right? Would you like to get number of ground? Okay. So Ellen's written the paper here, I will just hand over to Ellen for comments and any further comments you want to give us, Ellen, before we talk about the resolution?
No, so we're just following through due process in terms of the way of managing going forward with this particular matter. So we have a report from the consultants, which are very clear recommendations, and so it's bringing those to the board formally, again, we talked about it at the workshop previously. And the proposal in here is really to pick up on the detail, the implementation of the detail in relation to the engineer. So I got foresight consultants to give us a plan review that was constantly to take the lead on that in terms of implementing recommendations that are contained within the report. Just quickly, when we look at the just table, I think the basis of the foresight report that they did originally was based on some reports that were done by the Vietnamese Society, and the recommendation in relation to the gate actually aligns with the earlier proposals that were put to us by the Vietnamese Society. So we are aligned with what they have so far conveyed to us. This seems to retransfer that somewhat. And the other thing is this forest and bird being for us. So there's also a table item from the local branch of forest and bird, which essentially pretty much supporting the recommendations in the report, but also is pointing us toward the potential source of funding to actually undertake the work, according to very positive for the school on their part. So that's where it's at, really. So, there's a significant sum there, obviously, there's $89,000, which is a bit of a shock when you first look at it. But I don't think it is actually a realistic amount, because it's getting this whole thing to a point where so it's not actually building anything, but it's getting it to the stage where so it's going to be a consenting process, etc. Particularly working through those processes with WRC. Obviously, as my report states, there is no council funding included in the annual plan for 2021. So it's not something we can jump into immediately, but it's something I'm proposing we put into the long-term plan. The long-term plan is a document that we're going to have the community to be fully consulted, which will deal with, in my view, the issues of the rails and the slope from wherever it's from, sort of not identified.
It hasn't got a name, has
There's
it?
no name, nothing else there. Anyway, we know where it came from the Wetland Society, presumably. The consultation process that we're talking about there will be dealt with as part of the long-term plan process. So let's get it into the long-term plan and we'll go through the consultation that rather than a separate one-off consultation process for this, which in my view will probably go through the LTP process for the process. And if we go through a one-off consultation for this, then it could actually cause the thing to actually be too late to include it in the LTP. So we need to move forward with that.
And so spoken in name, not to know the gate and everything, like it's not actually doing any damage, it's not meeting the need, I understand, but it can continue until such time as something can be done properly.
The answer to that probably really is WRC. So I would be hopeful that WRC will see the positive actually take with this report and will work with us. But they do have the option of taking some sort of legal action against us for every non-compliant certainly, we've had very positive discussions with WRC on this matter today, so I'm hopeful that they'll work with us from the day he actually makes this.
Have they given the WRC given any timeline of we've got to find a resolution?
No.
And your discussions with them on positives, they
Yes.
are about with option 4.
Yeah.
The government idea of, looking at the one hundred years of need.
Yes, that's what the forest earlier is about tapping into that, that sort of funding. If we can do that, so if we do that, brings it forward, then obviously it's very good actually, so. Perhaps if we want to, we all maybe from the, something like the resolution, that we ask to follow that, particularly force of action up both forest and bird.
In terms of getting into new funding,
Yeah.
Investigate any options.
It's clearly.
well, you've got in here, number 2 recommends the council approve the further investigation, so that could be part of that, yes, yeah.
I'm just doing, yeah, we've got the books, and it's what we need to do.
Because I thought the option 4 was a good idea, and so we still continue with the foresight consultants and this
Well, we need this funding to, if we have no funding to pay for science engineering work, everything will be on hold until we get some funding in place.
But what do people think to get it's not just it's not the same as a microclimate, there is surrounding hills and there's flood water and runoff and everything and all the surrounding hills. So you're being about some of these channel alterations and so on, is that going to impact on or improve or make worse the stormwater issues?
Yeah, that's part of the foresight report, that would improve the way that we're moving the stormwater into the way rather than moving it around the way.
All right. Any other questions for him? Okay, well, the resolution is that Community Board received an accurate report at 25 March 2020. Recommends that council approve the further investigation and report back on the implementation of all actions in relation to the wetland. So replacement of the original gate with just a private gate to incrementally increase the amount of implementation until the result is achieved. So smart gate. Diversion of the access channel upstream of the river to determine freshwater inputs to northern east portion. Informal long-way roadside drainage channel for removal of unmitigated lines. And refers the funding of the 2021-31 long-term planning process. In terms of possible new funding, so we have as is, so we have a letter for that. And secondly, Dan, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Item 2.3, so this is relation to a possible weekend side and the college coming to conference. So I will pass the chair over to John, if I may.
You may.
As our councillor.
I'm happy to sit here. Right, it's pretty straightforward. It's a request that we take the $1,900 grant from the Board of Social Development discretionary budget, given from 200 for the purchase and reshow of the new well assigned to Coromandel. So it's a very straightforward report. Anybody got anything to comment on that or any problems?
Sounds like an extremely good price.
It does.
Probably an issue with the review both mentioned before, but yeah, I think we'll think, really want to consider that.
Do you want to consider putting something on that sign?
That's going to alter the cost of it.
I wouldn't think so.
I'm with
I
that.
don't think that would alter the cost. On the
It
street,
depends on how you do it, I guess.
my understanding is that the sign is just going to look like the old one,
Is that
but it's a
the
new.
photo that we see?
Yes,
It's,
yeah. And I would think in terms of providing everything, we'll just prepare something.
Yeah, well,
Don't quote me, because it may not be, but I don't know, or mine or something like that, but that's what I'm pursuing.
underlaid.
Yeah. Where it says welcome to home in the town, which is what's on a lot of our new council signs that are started in it.
If it can't go on the same piece of timber, it may need to be like that, like it's put in the bottom or something. So if there's an issue with that, come here. I'll
so you're comfortable with what you're doing, the same cost?
I think so.
Yeah, no, I think it's the, the bilingual piece as well, or red. It's funding the rules. So is anyone want to move the recommendation?
Do you want to change the recommendation for
I suppose I put something in there that requests that the board requests that, and, you know, something for my reading and so on.
So that addition is to make the movement.
I have a story.
If you want to see the thing. All those in favour?
Aye.
Having two prisoners out.
Just kidding. Use that.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure, Peter.
Next up, Coromandel contract. So this is a report from Alan here. Lots of over Alan, you can give us a rundown, although I'm sure you've all been more rereading.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're obviously working our way through the bike park. We're at the stage where the bike park now being issued with the resource consent to proceed with the development of the council. We're going to develop this bike park. So we now need to formalise the application to release and funding agreement with them. So that's what the report is all about, really, is to get consent for those two processes to be finalised. That will enable payment of the funding that is in the current financial year of the grant that we've set aside for this particular piece of work. You'll see in the report that there is a need to change the classification of from local purpose utility reserved to local purpose utility and bike park. Process for that, I was a bit anxious about that because we've just been through the management process where that land was identified as well as the utility site, which went through a full public consultation process, but apparently the line curriculum that reserves act requires that we do that again to get this changed. So
there's no category for that. There's no category currently for that, of course.
no, well, the reserve management plan, which is an adopted document, says very clearly that it's going to be like that, and it was for consultant, but people picked up, and I had to want the access to this report. I hadn't heard of that because I thought that it would be done. But apparently, the final agreement said we could actually go through that process again, specifically for this. So it's 1 month application period. So we're not anticipating a objections to it. But even if they are, we have put in the, we will work number 7 of the recommendation that if we do get any submissions that the council authorises the board to actually consider making a final decision on those. So that the final decision will still rest with the committee anyway, objections, then we will consider it, we'll still decide. So that's all I have. So the trust have done a really good job getting it to this stage. They have from the dock land, which is part of the whole of the bike park. They essentially progress with dock is still in darkness. It's still a work in progress in terms of docks. See what we see.
Just in relation to what I was talking about the other day, and she offered to happily stop. You need to
It's really all that to them, we're engaged in that,
Any other questions for Alan on this report? It's a huge resolution, there's 6 pages, 6 points there, but the benefit of reporting on staff recommends that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board receives the Coromandel White Park report. Recommends the council that it approve a lease to be entered into the spirit of Coromandel Community Trust for a portion of the land at 555 Howard Road, as shown on the plan attached to this report on the following terms. Term of 10 years, right as minimal 2 by 10 years. Rents 350 per annum plus GST on the prevailing rent under the leases and licenses policy on renewal. Permitted use of the bike park, with the caveat that council to retain the right to access and undertake works on the land to meet its obligations to manage the ongoing effects of the previous use of the site as a public land. This being subject to a condition precedent that the reserve classification has been changed to permit the boundary of the lease. Number 3, approve a funding agreement to be entered into with the spirit of Coromandel Community Trust to ensure accountability from the trust to the council for the use of the funds granted on council land only in accordance with the Coromandel White Park feasibility report dated 21 June 2019. Authorise the chief executive to complete all actions necessary to finalise the lease and funding agreement. Number 5, advertises proposal to change the reserve classification of the land and record of title 75661 of local purpose utility reserve to local purpose utility and bike park reserve for the following reasons. The change in classification is required to enable the lease of the bike park to issue. The reserve management plan adopted in 2019 after a full consultation process identifies the use of this reserve for the bike park. The development of the bike park is included in the council LPP, which went through a full consultation process. Resources has been granted for use of the land for a bike park. The bike park use of part of land as supported by the community board and council, and the bike park will add to the community amenity provided for local young people, biking enthusiasts and visitors. Provide an activity for families to enjoy together, create an opportunity for peace and have health, social and financial benefits for the community. And finally, number 6, authorises the Coromandel-Colville Community Board to consider any objections and to make a decision on the proposal to move the classification. We have a leave of minutes. You can read it. Second, and thank you all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Yes. Okay. I'm not bored of it. I can't make it.
When I was first on community board, that was one of the very first topics that came across the board to me. So it's really nice to see some traction.
Yeah. Right, next item 2.5, which is a late item, so I have to get some insight in. This is about the community board grants process and the need to change the dates for that. So I shall leave the room again once more.
Sorry, I can talk there.
This is the board will need to make a resolution in regard to the annual grants that were provided for the Coromandel-Colville commemoration. It should have been in this meeting. Yeah, so the board's been asked to approve those that received grants for activities affiliated to the Coromandel 200 with an extension of time to spend that money based on the fact that the event has been postponed to the 25th, 26th of September. So we're asking if you can allow them to carry the money over, some of the store equipment, yeah, so that it aligns with the actual event and that they can report by the 31st of December on how they spent the money.
So it's very straightforward. Does somebody want to speak to it or any points? Somebody want to move the item onto the meeting?
I'll move it.
Anyone second it? All those in favour?
Bruce is still here. We need him.
Just for some stuff down the road. So, yeah.
Right. It is. So should we do all three of the hearings? Hearing available? He's available.
Yeah, I like it.
Welcome, Derek. We can't hear you.
You need to unmute, Darren.
Rookie mistake, sorry about that.
Welcome to our world.
All right, and the first item is commission licenses. It's been previously tabled, but would you like to speak to that or go straight to the resolution?
I've got to say, I'm having trouble actually hearing clearly. So I suppose the less that I have to respond to, the better. So if you go straight to the resolutions, is that what you said?
Yes, or would you like to discuss anything about it first?
Oh, okay. Sorry, Peter. So obviously you've only received one application for 4 reserves. I will just make one small point, that is regarding the Oamaru Bay campground application. That was actually for a site opposite the campground, not actually within the campground itself. And that comment there about the roading manager will not approve due to safety concerns at this location probably makes a lot more sense then. That's pretty much it, really. I think Whittle Reserve is probably a fairly good location for a setup like this. And the applicant has also had a discussion with the Shelley Beach campground in regards to the Foreshore Reserve, and the Shelley Beach campground, to their credit, pointed them in council's direction rather than approving it themselves. So well done to them.
Derek, just like a question that's got on Long Bay Esplanade Reserve, 254 Colville Road. So that isn't the Long Bay Esplanade Reserve, at 254 Colville Road.
I think it connects in. There's a strip that goes the whole way along the foreshore from Long Bay all the way through to Shelley Bay.
Well, it's actually where the front is at 254 is Pickpocket Bay. The Esplanade Pickpocket Bay access down through Callaway Lane.
Yeah, it connects through. There's a portion adjacent to the campground on the foreshore area of the campground that council obviously, or community boards obviously unaware that we own.
I'm aware that you own it, but it's not Long Bay.
Derek, sorry, is what you're telling the board is the Esplanade Reserve that is in front of Thames-Coromandel Bay, is it all parts of the same land parcel as the Long Bay Reserve? Because it does all run down here, it's all one big, so I think that's what's there.
So just a short one.
I believe so. What can often be confusing is that sometimes parcels are actually known by a street address that actually has no relationship to their actual physical location. One, for instance, that comes to mind, I was just dealing with Tairua Pawanui Community Board the other day, and for instance, they've got their beachfront reserve on the main portion of Pawanui, and the street address is Tangatatori Lane, which is way over on the estuary side. So I'll double check for you at the moment, Jan. I'll just bring that up, but I'm fairly confident that it's...
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
It's the same parcel that goes all the way through.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just put it up on screen right now.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, John.
Yep. Derek, the site at Papa Araha outside the fire station, it's been recommended that we don't approve that one. But can I just clarify, the fire brigade has finished there now, and it was my understanding that council was now running that site, that it wasn't actually leased out to the emergency services still. Am I right in that?
Well, I've spoken to our property team, and their advice is that the land is leased to Fire and Emergency New Zealand. So even if the local brigade is not necessarily operational at this point in time, the lease is still with FENS. And I believe that they want to hold on to that lease in case there's enough people in the community come forward, and then they can operate a fire service in the future from that location.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great. I just wanted to clarify because it was told to me last night. I've spoken to you if I got the information earlier. But in actual fact, we were no longer leasing that land to FENS. They walked away from it. So our property people say it's still with FENS.
At the time of writing this report, that was the information that I had at hand. Sorry, and nothing else has come to hand. But if you wanted to, we can follow it up after this.
Yeah, that would be good if you can, because it there's no way we can allow this lease to go onto a property, or this right to sell goods from property that is leased to someone else anyway, is there?
Well, we can't, but the depending on the terms and condition of the lease, that they may potentially be able to sublet their rights.
It would be there, yeah.
Yep. So we've provided that information to the applicant and said that we don't, it's already leased. We cannot allow for a second grant, but you are within your rights to contact FENS.
Yeah, and that's the way I see it too. This person has applied for a number of sites, but she says the only one that's really financially viable is that one at Papa Araha because of its location and the camp and the other expenses that go with it. She says that she cannot operate at Oamaru Bay because of bollards. She wouldn't get her operation behind the bollards. But okay, no, that's great. Thank you very much, Derek.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
We've approved 2 sites. Does that assume, because the sites that have been approved or that they've applied for, assumes that they've got 2 trucks. So because of the time frames that they've put forward?
No, she's just covered her off.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're not going
to use both sides. Yeah.
Okie doke. All right, okay. So we can't attract 2 fees from here? Okay. That was one of my...
Let's just Derek that one.
Through the chair, also, sorry, I was about to say something else, Jan, so if I cover this off, that may actually answer that query, is that if we receive applications throughout the year up until a certain cut-off point, which will be around about October, we can take papers to the board for their consideration for other applications. So for instance, what generally happens is that we get a flurry or a rush on people wanting to operate on the Coromandel prior to Christmas. And so the board may receive further applications which may, end up going into your coffers into the future. So hopefully that gives you some form of confidence anyway. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Derek. Thank you.
So just to relate to that question, Derek, that Dan asked about getting 2 fees. My understanding is it is per site, so they would pay
2 fees anyway.
2 fees anyway, but it's a per site thing, not a per vehicle thing.
On the back page, it lays out, so operating in all year in 2 to 4 locations is $775. Operating during the summer and period and holiday weekends is $360 per annum per site. So if they wanted to take 2 sites on only for the holiday period, it would be $36 per annum per site.
Yep. Okay.
Derek, I'm thinking about the resolution now, and maybe we need to change it to include John's comments, because if you do further investigate the fire station and it does become a viable option, then we need to be able to let her use that site. So can we just change the wording of the Papaaraha Fire Station Reserve on Appendix A, Attachment A? At the moment, the recommendation is do not approve commercial operator's license. But we just amend the wording of that so that if you do some investigation and it is able to be held in that location, then we're able to do it.
That would be helpful, Derek, because the applicant is adamant that Ben's no longer have a lease on that site. So yeah, that'd be great.
So we could say do not approve commercial operator's license based on current information, but should further investigation allow the site, then we approve it. Or something.
Mr. Chair, first I'd like to suggest, I think if you did want to do something, you're listening to Bruce, hopefully that you actually authorise the chief executive to approve the site if the circumstances are changed that enable that to happen, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I think just an authority to staff would be the way of dealing with it.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yep. You happy with that, Derek?
Yep, perfectly. Thank you.
So that would be a third clause in the resolution then. I'll read it out. So recommend. Is there any further discussion before I go to the resolution? No. Recommends that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board receives the Coromandel-Colville commercial operator's licence on or over public places, including council reserves 1 July 2020 to 30 June 2022, report dated 6th of March 2020. Recommends to council that the following licences be issued to operate commercial activities on or over council reserves in the Coromandel-Colville Board for a term of 2 years from 1 July 2020 to 30 June 2022 per the attachment A comprehensive report recommendations. And a third point recommends
that the chief executive be authorised to approve the Papaaraha site should, if I keep thinking of that. Should the site be suitable? Be suitable.
Be available.
Be available.
Available.
So would someone like to move those 3 points?
I'll move that.
John, second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Derek has also got the next item, recycling bins and non-smoking areas in town. So this come about through a public forum presentation at the last meeting, I understand. There's quite a good report about this in the pre-brief, but I'll just open the floor for any conversation. Any questions for Derek, or Derek any comments to make?
I just wanted to make the Derek.
You go first, Derek.
Okay, sorry, Jan. Thank you, Chair. Just like to make a couple of comments that further information that has come to hand since I wrote the paper. I've spoken to the solid waste manager, and he's pointed out that every tonne of waste that council produces or is taken to landfill, we are charged $10 per tonne, but we can do receive a return on that from central government, and so that goes into what's called the waste levy. So his suggestion is that perhaps a trial could be set up involving temporary recycling bins. However, that would need to be run and applied for by a community group. That way, the emptying of the recycling bins, the data could be collected from the and a waste audit undertaken, and then you would be able to determine what benefits, whether it's just a feel good or it's actually creating a tangible good, and what the cost of that would be, and then an application may be able to come forward for a larger scheme. So that was just part of the further comments that I'd like to make in regards to this. Hopefully that makes some form of sense.
So if I understand you correctly, someone like Plastic Bag Free Coromandel or any other organisation needs to apply for a government grant for this?
No, it would come through to council.
Through the council?
Yes, through to council, through our waste levy. So we're holding a portion of money that is available for groups like Trees for Survival, for instance, and Enviro schools are funded by the waste levy. So there's not a huge sum of money in there. We don't get a heap back, but there is an opportunity there for council officers to work with some form of group that comes forward, setting up a trial, and then proving whether it's economically and environmentally viable.
Okay. One of the questions I have would be the effect on our heritage town and having modern day recycling bins with their bright colours and so on and so forth. And I don't think that's accounted for in our streetscape plan. So
no.
That's on the community board.
Yeah, so what you would do there, Chair, is that you would just run the recycling bins through the same furniture. So they would be identified as being recycling bins, but they would look very similar to what the rubbish bins are that you've chosen.
Would these replace the existing bins, or?
So in terms of a trial, you would set up something that would, some program that would accept recycling waste throughout the town centre. Whoever it is that needs to come up with some form of concept, and we were quite happy to work with these people, and then that would be able to be applied to the waste levy. So some form of consideration and thought needs to be put around this before any money is doled out to it.
Okay.
The plastic free group are investigating have been to Raglan already, and Raglan are coming over to do a workshop accordingly with them. But COVID-19, of course, stopped that from occurring, that workshop from occurring. But they've got that in train as we speak, really. So. I mean, it's a system that works and works really well in a small rural town, very similar to Coromandel. Plus, they take into account the sort of whole aspect of the town's character in Raglan, and would be doing the same here. The only thing I would like to add is that for it not to be considered to go in the Samuel James Reserve. It certainly be in the centre of town somewhere, but not in the Samuel James Reserve. That is definitely is not part of the streetscape. It's not part of the open space we've got with our streetscape guidelines. But maybe just behind there, it could be. I mean that can be sorted, I think. But take Samuel James Reserve out of the equation when we're talking about this, if we can.
Okay, so by the sound of it, we don't have to do anything as a board just yet, other than encourage organisations within the community to step up and present something to us. That's what you're saying there, in terms of the recycling bin. So we'll leave that, but no smoking. After reading your report, I gather there's just no real way of enforcing something like that. So it's silly to, not silly. It's well intentioned, but it's just not practical to proceed.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. Any other discussion on those points? All right, so on that basis then, the recommendation is that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board receives the report on recycling bins and non-smoking areas in Coromandel Town dated 25 March 2020 for its information. So does anybody like to move that?
Yep, I'll move that.
Yep, and the seconder?
Yeah.
Kim, thank you very much. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried, thank you. Thank you very much, Derek. And are you staying on for the next item too?
Yes. Correct.
Okay, so I'll invite Kate and Bill quickly. I know Bill's online there somewhere. Hello, Bill. Earth Tomatoes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Chair.
I'll just open the floor up for you to give us a bit of a brief, if you like. It's quite a comprehensive report already. Took me 3 goes to read it, to be honest. But yeah, it's a great plan, but I'll let you speak to it for a while and then invite the board to comment.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So yes, welcome to Bill. So he's the Thames-Coromandel District Coordinator with Sport Waikato. And as you can probably see from the plan itself, that it's, even though it's got council's name on it, reading through it, it's a plan that sits below the Sport Waikato Regional Facilities Plan, which looks at facilities and sport around the whole region. And it sits alongside other similar plans that have been created by other territorial authorities such as Hauraki and Waikato and Waipa, etc. It's a really good snapshot of what's actually happening in the district at the moment in terms of who's recreating, what numbers there are, what sort of clubs there are, what the trends are, and how things are changing. For instance, there is a move away from organised participatory sports to more self-driven sports. And you've probably seen a bit of that during the COVID lockdown as well. A lot more people out there active walking, and certainly less opportunities for organised activities. But Bill worked with this with one of my team, and sadly, unfortunately, one of my team who has been working with Bill has now resigned and he's no longer with us. That's Paul Duffy. He's the recreation manager. So in terms of the nuts and bolts of the plan, Bill's probably the best person to be able to answer any inquiries or questions. So are there any queries or inquiries from the board?
I have some.
Go for it.
Yeah, okay. The upgrade of the Coromandel field is in for year 2-3, and it was brought to the board that it was quite urgent last year, that the field something is done about it. And so I'm just thinking that it actually needs to be brought forward to be upgraded earlier, if not now, before the season starts.
Through the chair, we sought additional funding for that, and we were unsuccessful. So there's no budget in this financial year for that work to occur, even though it would have been perfect timing for it to happen. And I'm not quite sure what our budgets look like for next financial year either. So it might have to wait until the LTP, unfortunately.
Well, can I just say something about that? And I guess it's a comparison that a lot of the money that has been budgeted for year 1 to 3, or year 1, is actually investigative stuff in Mercury Bay. A lot of it is the money is going to. I guess I just want to say that there's an imbalance there. When something was proven that was needed to be done, when the money that's been allocated is for investigation rather than actually dealing with what needs to be done right now. So I just want to say that,
And I just wonder if it can be considered amongst that in the thing. We're still in draft, so I'm wondering if that can be considered.
Through the chair, yes, you're correct, it is a draft plan, but I just would like to point out as well that everything is locally funded. So if you wanted to push forward projects, then there will be a cost to that for the local ratepayers.
Yeah, my take on Jan's suggestions is that we do need to be careful about how we spend any money at the moment, and we're doing a bit of work in applying through the annual plan for some money to investigate further options with the Sportsville land, and whether or not we're successful with that funding will sort of guide really what we do around the rugby clubs in the short term. So we probably need to wait a little while and just see how that pans out, because I think that there's talk of doing something for the touch in town, and also talk about rejuvenating or refreshing the rugby clubs. So until we know further about what we're going to do exactly in that space and what's going to go where, we probably just need to keep things a little bit loose. And I know it'd be great, everybody wants to have the best things right now, but it's a waste of money spending dough doing something and then pulling it up and moving it, or who knows what's going to happen through our annual plan process. So I just think we need to be open. But my bigger question really is I noticed on the news and also through your report that you're asking clubs to coordinate a lot more and become multi-role, you know, and that was also mentioned on the news recently, and this seems to be the best way for sports in general. And Bill, you might have a comment on that. How do we get the clubs to talk to each other and coordinate?
Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity. And through the chair, there's a lot of discussion going on amongst groups with regards to what I suppose the term is hubbing. Volunteer base tends to be reducing a little bit, and if we can get these clubs to collaborate a little bit more, now that can be facilitated through myself as a district coordinator, start to get user groups together to start actually having those conversations. Some of them may be tough conversations, but if we can get the different codes on board and just, as I say, start those conversations, and that can be facilitated by myself and through my connections through Sport Waikato as well. A good example, I suppose, in the neighbouring district in Hauraki is there's actually a real plan and a real drive for what's called the Ngātia or Hauraki Plains Community Hub. And that's actually at the moment, that started about October last year, and they're in the process of appointing a board for that. So it can be a reasonably quick process as long as everyone is on board. And as I say, that really does start with conversations with the different user groups in a one-on-one basis to see if there's the appetite for it.
Have you had any feedback from local groups in Coromandel Town?
Not at the moment. You've got a great facility there, and whilst it is on kind of MOE land as well, you've kind of got the basis of a hub all in around the school grounds and then Pound Street as well. So those conversations do need to be had. It was on the radar, but obviously, you know, so far this year things have been put on the back burner a little bit. But it's certainly within, you know, the next 6 to 12 months, we want to start those conversations.
I think that the proposed hub in Pound Street is going to incorporate a little bit of sports coordination and hot desking and that kind of thing in the future. So that's got to be a positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, just one comment, Bill. I see part of the consultation that went out to in the various clubs. There was a comment by the rugby club that they only had one field The actual reality of it is there's the ones on the MOE grounds immediately adjacent to rugby clubs, which are available, in which this community board put many hundreds of thousands of dollars into developing about 15 years ago. So really, I don't think there's a shortage of playing fields, and there's an MOU between the school and the community, which says those fields are available because of the amount of money we put in. So just bringing that to your attention as well. There's, this community board and the community has invested a lot of money in the MOE grounds over previous years, and there are a lot of playing fields that aren't really utilised that much.
Yeah, through the chair, thanks, Councillor Morrissey, and it is once again goes back to those discussions around that cross collaboration between MOE, between the school sports, what their requirements are, and also the local community clubs as well. So thank you for that, and we'll make a note of that as well.
Good idea, thank you.
I just want to, a couple of spelling mistakes you've made. Sorry to be pedantic, but it is really important. You spelled Urupa wrong on page 4 of the draft, and on page 47, you've spelled kilt wrong. It should be CILT, not KILT. Just saying.
Yep.
No,
yep. Absolutely.
Very impressive, Jan.
Thank you. Through the chair once again, Jan, that has been noted in prior community board meetings as well. So we've certainly made a note of that, and we will be making those amendments.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on this topic? Dean, you're all happy? What about Mania? Anything in relation to the plan for that area? I mean, you do basketball down there because you've got the only full-size basketball.
Right, you do inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's something that's not on the plan, I don't think, Bill. I remember reading about the Coromandel area school only having a half a court, but I didn't pick up that it mentioned that Mania school has a full-size court.
Yeah, through the chair once again, yeah, that's correct, and discussions wider than just the Coromandel-Colville ward around, basketball usage from a Thames Valley perspective as well. There are discussions going on in the background with regards to that. What comes of that, I'm not quite sure, but I believe that the local sports coordinator as well is also having discussions between Coromandel Area School and Mania with regards to usage.
Yeah.
It's really popular with the kids, that basketball? It's huge.
And I think Mania is only too happy to work alongside the Coromandel Area School.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay.
Sorry.
Kim, yep.
I just noticed on page 92, you've got a list of local club supports. And then there's, I identified 5 that are from Coromandel. Is this, did you go through all the clubs that are available in Coromandel, or is this just the ones that were, that came back to you?
What we did with regards to the process was initially contacted all of the clubs that were on our current database at that point. I'd been in the job about a month when this started, so there was a lot of updating that needed to be done. We also followed up with phone calls, trying to connect with local people as well around were there clubs that were missing. And I know that Margaret was very, very helpful in trying to contact a lot of those clubs that weren't on our database. So it was a pretty extensive process to engage with all of the clubs and organisations. And it's not just organised clubs as well, or formal clubs. There were recreation providers or informal walking groups and that were also engaged with.
Yeah, because that's the sort of group that I had listed that I thought maybe hadn't been contacted, that's all. And there was ones like the Coromandel Sailing Club I don't know, tennis club, the bowling club?
Yeah, they were all contacted
Okay,
and all
cool.
given the opportunity to participate.
Oh, good. Nice to see. Thank
It's the
you.
little quirky things like the badminton and so on too, eh? That's quite popular, especially in winter.
Yeah.
All right, well, any other questions on the topic? There being none, I'll move to the resolution, which is that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board receives the Thames-Coromandel District Council Sport and Active Recreation Plan report dated 25 March 2020 and requests that council adopt the Thames-Coromandel District Council Sport and Active Recreational Plan. I'll move it for that.
Yep.
Kim, thank you, and seconder. I'm happy to second that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried, and well done. Good luck getting it through council. Shouldn't be a problem, I don't think.
Thanks very much for the positive response.
Excellent. Keep up the good work. Thanks very much. And now I think we'll just move to a break, eh? And we'll come back in 15 minutes and talk to Ross. Recording, I suppose.
I need you to trip over the cord.